When the young man arrived at Trinell's office, he found a middle-aged man smiling at him.
"Well, you've been to see the old man. He's quite a guy, isn't he?"
"He seems that way," the young man responded.
"Did he tell you about being a one-minute manager?"
"He sure did." "It's not true, is it?" asked the young man.
"You better believe it is. I hardly ever see him."
"You mean you never get any help from him?" puzzled the young man.
"Essentially very little, although he does spend some time with me at the beginning of a new task or responsibility. That's when he does one-minute goal setting."
"1-minute goal setting? What's that?" said the young man. "He told me he was a one-minute manager, but he didn't say anything about 1-minute goal setting."
"That's the first of the 3 secrets to one-minute management,"
Trinell answered. 3 secrets?" the young man asked, wanting to know more.
"Yes," said Trinell. "1-minute goal setting is the first one and the foundation for one-minute management. You see, in most organizations, when you ask people what they do and then ask their boss, all too often you get 2 different lists. In fact, in some organizations I've worked in, any relationship between what I thought my job responsibilities were and what my boss thought they were was purely coincidental. And then I would get in trouble for not doing something I didn't even think was my job."
"Does that ever happen here?" asked the young man.
"No," Trinell said. "It never happens here. The one-minute manager always makes it clear what our responsibilities are and what we're being held accountable for."
"Just how does he do that?" the young man wanted to know.
"Efficiently," Trinell said with a smile.
Trinell began to explain.
"Once he has told me what needs to be done, or we have agreed on what needs to be done, then each goal is recorded on no more than a single page. The one-minute manager feels that a goal and its performance standard should take no more than 250 words to express. He insists that anyone be able to read it within a minute. He keeps a copy and I keep a copy, so everything is clear, and so we can both periodically check the progress."
"Do you have these one-page statements for every goal?"
"Yes," answered Trinell.
"Well, wouldn't there be a lot of these one-page statements for each person?"
"No, there really aren't," Trinell insisted. "The old man believes in the 80-20 goal-setting rule. That is, 80% of your really important results will come from 20% of your goals. So we only do one-minute goal setting on that 20%. That is, our key areas of responsibility. Maybe 3 to 6 goals in all. Of course, in the event a special project comes up, we set special one-minute goals."
"Interesting," the young man commented. "I think I understand the importance of one-minute goal setting. It sounds like a philosophy of no surprises. Everyone knows what is expected from the beginning."
"Exactly," Trinell nodded.
"So is one-minute goal setting just understanding what your responsibilities are?" the young man asked.
"Nope. Once we know what our job is, the manager always makes sure we know what good performance is. In other words, performance standards are clear. He shows us what he expects."
"How does he do that, show you what he expects?" asked the young man.
"Let me give you an example," Trinell suggested. "One of my one-minute goals was this: identify performance problems and come up with solutions which, when implemented, will turn the situation around. When I first came to work here, I spotted a problem that needed to be solved, but I didn't know what to do. So I called the one-minute manager. When he answered the phone, I said, "Sir, I have a problem." Before I could get another word out, he said, "Good. That's what you've been hired to solve." Then there was a dead silence on the other end of the phone. I didn't know what to do. The silence was deafening. I eventually stuttered out, But sir, I don't know how to solve this problem." "Trinell," he said, "one of your goals for the future is for you to identify and solve your own problems. But since you're new, come on up and we'll talk." When I got up there, he said, "Tell me, Trinell, what your problem is, but put it in behavioral terms." "Behavioral terms?" I echoed. "What do you mean by behavioral terms?" "I mean," the manager explained to me, "that I do not want to hear only about attitudes or feelings.
Tell me what is happening in observable, measurable terms. I described the problem the best I could. He said, "That's good, Trinell. Now tell me what you would like to be happening in behavioral terms." "I don't know," I said. "Then don't waste my time," he snapped. I just froze in amazement for a few seconds. I didn't know what to do. He mercifully broke the dead silence. "If you can't tell me what you'd like to be happening," he said, "you don't have a problem yet. You're just complaining. A problem only exists if there is a difference between what is actually happening and what you desire to be happening." Being a quick learner, I suddenly realized I knew what I wanted to be happening. After I told him, he asked me to talk about what may have caused the discrepancy between the actual and the desired. After that, the 1-minute manager said, "Well, what are you going to do about it?" "Well, I could do A," I said. "If you did A, would what you want to happen actually happen?" he asked. "No," I said. "Then you have a lousy solution. What else could you do?" he asked. "I could do B," I said. "But if you do B, will what you want to happen really happen?" he countered again. "No," I realized. "Then that's also a bad solution," he said. "What else can you do?" I thought about it for a couple of minutes and said, "I could do C, but if I do C, what I want to happen won't happen. So that's a bad solution, isn't it?" "Right. You're starting to come around," the manager then said with a smile on his face. "Is there anything else you could do?" he asked. "Maybe I could combine some of these solutions," I said. "That sounds worth trying," he reacted. "In fact, if I do A this week, B next week, and C in 2 weeks, I'll have it solved. That's fantastic." "Thanks so much. You solved my problem for me." He got very annoyed. "I did not," he interrupted. "You solved it yourself. I just asked you questions. Questions you are able to ask yourself. Now get out of here and start solving your own problems on your time, not mine." I knew what he had done, of course. He'd shown me how to solve problems so that I could do it on my own in the future. Then he stood, looked me straight in the eye, and said, "You're good, Trinell. Remember that the next time you have a problem." I remember smiling as I left his office. Trinell leaned back in his chair and looked as if he were reliving his first encounter with the 1-minute manager. "So," the young man began, reflecting on what he had just heard, 1-minute goal setting is simply, first, agree on your goals. Second, see what good behavior looks like. Third, write out each of your goals on a single sheet of paper using less than 250 words. Fourth, read and reread each goal, which requires only a minute or so each time you do it. Fifth, take a minute every once in a while out of your day to look at your performance. And sixth, see whether or not your behavior matches your goal. "That's it," Trinell exclaimed. "You're a fast learner." "Thank you," the young man said, feeling good about himself. "But just let me jot that down," he said. "I want to remember that." After the young man wrote briefly in the small blue notebook he carried with him, he leaned forward and asked, "If 1-minute goal setting is the first secret to becoming a 1-minute manager, what are the other two?" Trinell smiled, looked at his watch, and said, "Why don't you ask Levy that? You're scheduled to see him this morning too, aren't you?" The young man was amazed. How did Trinell know that? "Yes," the young man said as he rose to shake Trinell's hand. "Thanks so much for your time, sir." "You're welcome," Trinell answered. "Time is one thing I have a lot more of now. As you can probably tell, I'm becoming a 1-minute manager myself."